So we have our good friend Charles III visiting the United States as of April 27th, meeting with Trump, of course. Also interesting to note that this video on CNN, which I just talked about in my last video, is 1 minute 15 seconds long. Because Trump just had his phony Hilton Hotel shooting on the 115th day of the year, and 115 is the 84th composite. And remember, CNN was all over that incident. Wolf Blitzer, even there. Him born on 3/22, of course. And it being 45 years, 47 weeks after CNN's founding. I mean, come on now. And he'll be flying through the Bermuda Triangle on April 30th and visiting Bermuda on May Day, the day of pagan sacrifice, and on May 2nd, the day that the racehorses Albus and Renegade will be running. Now, anyone who's been following my channel since the beginning knows that I consider this film, Southland Tales, the single most coded film of all time. It would take probably at least 50 videos to decode everything. And it was released in the United States on November 14th, 2007. That, of course, is Charles III's birthday. Although it originally premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 2006 on May 21st. That, of course, is the 141st day of the year. 141 equals World War III, Seattle Slew, June 11th, etc. And in 2001, the Pearl Harbor film premiered on that date in Hawaii. 3 months, 22 days before 9/11. I could literally spend hours talking about the codes in this film. There are so many. People like to focus on Donnie Darko, and yes, there are many codes in that one, obviously. But this is incredibly under the radar and far more coded. I saw a video in my feed from Enter the Stars recently talking about the Strait of Hormuz blockade being predicted on the Economist cover this year. Well, I hate to break it to him, but it was predicted far, far, far before that. It was predicted in Southland Tales back in 2007. And I did a whole video on that, so if you haven't seen it, check it out, because it is explosive information. I glanced at his video, and he said that he didn't know what the July 4th was referencing on the cover. He didn't know how it connected. Well, I know how it connects, because Southland Tales is all about twin nuclear attacks on July 4th, 2005, and then the end of the world on July 4th, 2008. So that's the connection. And that is why the Strait of Hormuz blockade became a reality this year, when it's the 250th year anniversary. And the Bermuda Triangle is a very interesting chunk of real estate, isn't it? All the disappearances, everything speculated from UFO abductions to portals. Of course, Southland Tales all about portals. In this film, thanks to the Strait of Hormuz blockade, energy resources are diminishing, and the Baron von Westphalen arrives on the scene with his fluid karma, an energy source that never diminishes because it comes from the ocean itself. And with this energy source, he holds such power that he basically becomes the Antichrist figure of the film and gets people to do whatever he wants. He has his hand in everything. Dwayne Johnson plays boxer Santaros, a movie star married to a Texas senator's daughter, played by Mandy Moore. Well, the Baron hires cop Roland Tavener to drive Boxer Santoros through a time rift just to see what happens. And the results are quite devastating, as it eventually leads to the end of the world. It turns out that anyone who goes through the portal has a future self of them made. So basically a twin. And in Roland's case, it's Roland and Ronald Tavener. Of course, Roland and Ronald like Donald Trump. Boxer's twin, however, was killed in a car explosion, and the one we're seeing throughout the film is actually his future self. The end of the world comes about because the twins cannot meet. If they meet, it causes destruction. And at the end of the film, they do meet. And believe me, that's only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much to talk about with this film. I've already talked about it in many, many videos, and I haven't even covered half of it. Not even a quarter of it, really. And speaking of portals, I've already showed this on my channel because it was an absolutely colossal discovery, but I'm going to show it again anyway. Robert Zemeckis, of course, famous for directing the Back to the Future films about time travel, 88 miles per hour, all that nonsense. Born on May 14th, 1952. May 14th, by the way, is Israel's founding date. And by the way, I am the only person to have found this. In fact, I'm the only person looking into this film at all. If you go from Robert Zemeckis' birthday and add 666 months, you land on November 14th, 2007. Southland Tales release date. No coincidence. Not in any possible reality. And remember, in Donnie Darko, Back to the Future is actually referenced when Donnie is talking to that one teacher played by Noah Wyle. So again, no coincidence. Ever. And that is a colossal deal. And I have been using Southland Tales as a roadmap to future events. You can always tell by the numbers. Because if you go from Southland Tales release date on Charles III's birthday to his arrival here in the U.S. is 6739 days. We know about the 67, that's the Elvis Jesse Water number, who died at the age of 39 and was all about opening the hell portal. Michelle Trachtenberg. And 39, of course, connects to 26, foreshadowing the year 2026. Just like 101 is the 26th prime, 39 is the 26th composite. And I could say more about this, like how it has the EL number right in the middle, and 739 plus 6 would be 745, which is the 612th composite. 612, George Bush Sr.'s birthday. You're backwards 216. Also Disclosure Day release. 18 plus 5 plus 13 is 36. But more importantly, 185 plus 13 is 198. The beast number. As you can see here. And in Latin, the hardest cipher to find matches in. President Trump equals the beast number. And anything related to beast system or the beast system, you can guarantee they're going to code it into one of these three ciphers. These are the three ciphers they use for those codes. Beast system 888. The beast system 1086. And the difference between beast system and the beast system, the 888 and the 1086, is 198, which equals beast. And as any good decoder knows, you can read these things many ways. consider this January 8th. Of course, that's Elvis's birth date. Add 5 and then 13 and land on 1/26. Kobe Bryant death date and the 1/26th composite is 165. Trump born on the 165th day of the year. And February 21st plus 13 days would land on 3/6. And Charles III flies through Bermuda 67.42 days after the release of Southland Tales. Our 6-7 with our 42. Elvis died at the age of 42. Washington State is the 42nd state. 4-2 is the 92nd day of the year, 162 days before 9/11. And remember, Southland Tales all about July 4th. We have our 7-4 in the middle. 67 times 42, by the way, is 2,814. 814 is the 226th day of the year. Add 2 to that, land on 8/16, Elvis's death date. Or just do 28 plus 14 and get 42. 18 plus 5 plus 16 is 39. Again, Michelle Trachtenberg died at the age of 39, one of many 26 codes surrounding her. And 185 plus 16 is 201, which equals many different things, and also is like event 201. In fact, you have another 39 code here, because February 21st plus 16 days lands on 3/9. In fact, you have your backwards 611 in here, and this can be a 216 because ones are reset numbers, drop one of the ones. And if you want to see how the codes never fell, 221 plus 16 is 237. 237 is the 185th composite, which is the 142nd composite. The 142nd day of the year is 5/22, Memphis' founding date, the gift, tower sacrifice, air date. And by the way, it's why I'm keeping major watch on May 25th next month, because on that date, Southland Tales will be exactly 67 days old. Your twin 67s. Elvis and Jesse. And it's really a loaded day all around because it's also 18 years, 6 months, 11 days since its release. We have our 1/8 with our 6/11. And 186 plus 11 is 197, like 19/7, 7/19, Trump's reverse birth date. 222 months, 11 days. 222, of course, is our order out of chaos as above, so below number. And 222 times 11 is 2442. 42 forwards and backwards. A mirror, a palindrome. And of course, 24 plus 42 is 66, the twin number. And just 442 plus 2 would give us our 444. Those triple numbers are always big. And of course, I've known this one from the beginning. Southland Tales was released 84 days before 6/11 this year. Our 6/7 with our 84. Huge. And 784 plus 6 is 790. 79, Trump's age, still on 6/11 this year, with a crown or with a portal, or you can just drop the 0. Add these up, get 52. It's the 36th composite, and the 52nd composite is 7-4. And here we have our big 222 number combined with our 228. Elvis died on the 228th day of the year. The Iran War started on 228. But it gets better than that, because 222 plus 28 is 250. Again, Southland Tales all about the nuclear attacks on 7405 and the end of the world on 7408. This year, the big 7-4 250th year anniversary of the country. Also, if you add 28 days to February 22nd, you land on March 22nd, 322 Skull and Bones. And that, by the way, is Michelle Trachtenberg's reverse birth date. The 81st day of the year. Michelle's birthday leaves 81 days remaining in the year. And you know, I think the reasons I use it as a roadmap are pretty obvious at this point. But if we go from its release date to when it turned 6,660 days old on 2/7 earlier this year, we're going to get something pretty interesting. Because if we go from that date where Southland Tales turned 666 with a crown or portal to 611 this year, it's 124 days. What have I said about this number many, many times? I mean, beyond being your backwards 421 Seattle Space Needle opening date or your 412 Shannon Doherty birth date, the 124th composite is 162611. So yeah, I'd consider that a pretty big deal. It's also 4 months, 4 days. That's 44 your kill number. And 4/4 on the Roman calendar is 6/4. The Space Needle turned 64 this year. A huge number in and of itself. And going back to this, speaking of the kill number, 18 plus 2 plus 24 is 44. And February 18th plus 24 days would land on 3/14, Pi Day. You know how that connects to Michelle Trachtenberg too. Now we all know about Charles III's dad, Prince Philip, saying he would like to be reincarnated as a virus, right? Well, there's this episode of The Outer Limits called Patient Zero, where a man travels back in time to stop the carrier, Patient Zero, of a virus that wiped out humanity. And it's a very, very coded episode of this show. If we go from its air date to the death of Prince Philip, 7,322 days. We have our 322 Skull and Bones in there, of course, as well as our EL number. And check out what happens when we multiply 7 by 3 by 2 by 2. It equals 84. And I find that extremely interesting because if we go from Southland Tales premiere at the Cannes Film Festival on the 141st day of 2006 to the start of the Iran War on 2/28 this year, it's the same exact numbers, only instead of 322, it's 223, the backwards 322, which means if you multiply these numbers, you'll get 216 yet again. And 199 plus 7 is 206, again pointing to the year 2026. We also have 1,031 weeks and 6 days. Now this is Halloween right here, and 6 days after Halloween is 11/6, you're backwards 6/11. But that's enough about Southland Tales for now. Getting back to the Bermuda Triangle, there was this film in 1975, a TV movie called Satan's Triangle that I watched. Pretty creepy movie, actually. In it, this girl, played by Kim Novak, winds up being Satan in disguise. Interesting to note that her initials, KN, is 11/14. Southland Tales release date, Charles III's birth date. And the movie is an hour, 14 minutes long, and it aired 1/14/75. Well, 114 plus 114 just so happens to equal 228. Now here is a very interesting movie from the video store days. I rented this back then and loved it. Very, very unique plot. In it, a spacecraft out to repair a nuclear satellite near the dark side of the moon encounters an old space shuttle. Although the shuttle had not been used in many years, as this takes place in the future, so it's quite bizarre. And it turns out that Satan is on board the shuttle, and that he has been using the Bermuda Triangle. Anything that disappears in the Bermuda Triangle winds up teleported through a portal and ends up on the dark side of the moon. Satan using the Bermuda Triangle to his advantage in the film. A very interesting film, and again, all about a portal. And you have your triangle imagery in here too, as anyone who gets possessed has a huge triangle cut in their abdomen. Well, from the release of the film to Charles III arriving in the U.S. on 4/27, 13,116 days. You have your backwards 611 there with your 13, and 131, or January 31st, plus 16 would land on February 16th, 2/16/84. So you get both your 611 and your 8/4 connections in this. And 35 plus 10 plus 28 is our 73 EL number. And consider this March 5th and add 10 and then 28 and land on 4/12. Again, Shannon born on 4/12. And here, April 30th plus 28 days would land on 5/28, my birth date, but also fictional character Donnie Darko's birth date, which relates to Trump and also obviously relates to Southland Tales. And Southland Tales relates to Charles III, otherwise they wouldn't have released it on his birth date. And if we go from the release of The Dark Side of the Moon to the date that he will actually be flying through the Bermuda Triangle, 119 days, or 9/11 with our 13, and 19 days after January 31st is 2/19. 2/19 is the 171st composite, the huge Southland Tales number. Go watch my past Southland Tales decodes and see how big of a number that is. In fact, the title itself equals 171. Of course, the most famous case with the Bermuda Triangle is Amelia Earhart, who disappeared on July 2nd, 1937. Ear in the name, of course, Trump's ear clip. And from her disappearance to Charles going through the triangle, 32,444 days. Another one of our triple numbers. And 32 times 444 is 14208. Of course, the 142nd day of the year, again, is Memphis' founding date, the Gift Tower Sacrifice air date. And then 208 plus 14 is 222. And 324 plus 44 is 368, just barely past the length of a year, 365. And fascinatingly enough, that means if you use 611 as a starting point and go 368 days into the future, you land on 6/14, Trump's birthday. And speaking of Trump's birthday, we have 1,065 months here, drop the 0, that's 165. Trump born on the 165th day of the year, and it's with a 28. Always an important number, a perfect number as well. And if you want to look at it as March 24th, the 83rd day of the year, add 44 days to it, and when you know, you land on May 7th. Seattle Slew died on May 7th, the 127th day of the year, and Michelle Trachtenberg died on 2/26, the 57th day of the year. And again, the key theme here is portals. So we go back to the Gift Tower Sacrifice episode, where Michelle Trachtenberg was to be the Tower Sacrifice, the key to opening the Hell Portal. Aired on Memphis' founding date, 5/22, in the year 2001, one day after the Pearl Harbor film premiered on 5/21. So from that air date to when Charles III will be flying through the Bermuda Triangle, end date included, it is 9,110 days. You're 9/11 with a portal, a crown, or just a dropped 0. And this also is your 110. And remember that 5 times 22 equals 110. It was season 5, episode 22 of the show. It aired on 5/22. And Michelle's birthday, 10/11. 10 times 11 also equals 110. So the numbers keep perfectly adding up. And 24 plus 11 plus 9 is 44, the kill number. 299 months and 9 days. 2 times 999 equals 1998. That's our 666 year, because 3 666s equals 1998. Now it gets even better, going from Michelle Trachtenberg's death date, 2/26 last year, to him going to the Bermuda Triangle, 428 days. Go figure, today is 4/28. 4/28 is also a Trump-coded date. If you watch my Fearless, the Bridge to Charlie Kirk video, you'll see how. And 4 times 2 times 8 is 64. Again, that's the Space Needle's current age, a huge number. And here we have 1 year, 2 months, 4 days, our 124 again and again. The 124th composite is 162. And 14 plus 4 is our 18, but it's also our 144, and again, another huge number that equals everything from Mark of the Beast to economic reset to alien invasion, etc. But what I'd consider the biggest deal, 61 weeks and 1 day, our 6/11. I told you, the Trachtenberg connections never ever stop. And I have an absolutely huge Trachtenberg connection coming up. But I'm going to do it in its own video because it's such a huge connection, and I can't believe that I forgot to look at that. I've been studying every single code with Michelle Trachtenberg and Claire Kramer and Shannon Doherty. So for me to have missed this one, I couldn't believe it, but it is absolutely colossal. But that's for a different video. It deserves its own video. And Charles will enter the Bermuda Triangle 201 days after Michelle's most recent birthday. And again, that's a hint to what I was just talking about. It has to do with her most recent birthday. But again, like Event 201, among many other things. 6 months and 19 days into the year is 7/19, Trump's reverse birth date. And getting back to the dark side of the moon, can you believe it? It equals 88, our Trump portal infinity number in Chaldean. 88, the Lionsgate portal date. Remember the movie Weapons? Gladys Lilly, a perfect cipher match for Trump, played by Amy Madigan, born on 9/11. Again, the theme is portals, and there's your 88. Also 215 in ordinal, that's Seattle Slew's birthday. 325 in reverse, that's the 84th day of the year. 1950 in reverse, Sumerian, drop the 0 and it's 195. Trump's ear clip on the 195th day of a leap year. Shannon's death date as well. And more on that Outer Limits episode, Patient Zero, later, as it's got some interesting stuff in it. But in Gematria, it equals 149. JFK born on the 149th day of the year. The 59th day of the year is 228. The 148th day of the year is my birthday. Also, fictional character Donnie Darko's birthday. Again, relates to Trump. 5/8. A very, very important date. I have a decode surrounding that date coming up about the film Deep Impact. And we have our 888 Beast System number. Also 1490 in standard. That's a 149 again, really. And again, since the main theme here is portals, and I started this decode out with Zemeckis being born 666 months before Southland Tales was released on Charles III's birthday. If we go from Zemeckis' birth to Charles III flying into the Bermuda Triangle, 27,014 days. Now 27 plus 14 is 41. Of course, the Seattle Space Needle prank was on 4-1. But the most important thing is 270 plus 14 would be 284. Michelle Trachtenberg, all about opening the Hell Portal, as she was the Tower Sacrifice on Memphis's founding date. Born October 11th, 1985. 9 months, 11 days into the year. And October 11th is the 284th day of the year. So from Zemeckis' birth to Charles III entering the Bermuda Triangle, 270 plus 14, 284. Portal, portal, Southland Tales open on his birthday, portal, 284, Michelle Trachtenberg, portal. All around portals. And as Garo usually says, you can find the devil in the details. Down here in the percentage of a common year, 7,401.10%. Again, Southland Tales all about July 4th. And we have our 110, Michelle Trachtenberg, all about those 110s. That's all for now. I have way too much to talk about. All glory to God, and thank you for watching.